So how you guys doing? Everyone good? Good. Who's excited? Anyone? Good. This is going to be a very exciting course. This is the culminations of over 3 or 4 years. I've been teaching this a lot, and you're about to have the best version of what this is. So congratulations, folks. You chose the right one to come to. Now, a couple of things as we get launched into it. You may notice that from time to time my voice is a little bit fast. That's just part of my thinking style, I guess. So if at any point I'm speaking a bit too fast or you don't quite catch something, please feel free to put your hand up. I'll ask you to slow down and stuff like that. I will not take offense at all. If you need something repeated again, just put your hand up and ask for that. Again, I'd rather you get what we need to be doing here than anything else. Does that make sense? Just a quick question, because I know there's quite a few nationalities in here. I presume there's a few Americans in the room. Is that correct? Yeah, I thought so. Any Canadians? I think I spoke to a couple of Canadians. Wow, you're almost as many as the Americans. That's good. Yeah. Beware White House. I think the Canadians came once and pwned the White House down, didn't they, some years ago? So this might be a secret infiltration. Keep an eye on them, okay? What other countries do we have present? I believe there's a couple of Germans or Austrians, is that right? Germanics? Perfect, like that. What other countries we have? Colombia. Rock and roll, well done. What other countries? Belgium, excellent, nice waffles, I like that. Finland, I haven't tasted the waffles, but I'm sure they're very nice there too. Caribbean, love the place. Which part of the Caribbean? Bonaire? I haven't been, but I may come and visit you soon. Holland, great place. We just did one of these in Holland. When was it? 6 months ago, something like that. So, well, you chose the right one to come to, anyways. At the back, the UK, excellent. I grew up in London, so I love the place. Singapore, fantastic. I may have to come visit you as well. It's always I've heard good things about the place. Czech Republic. The Czech Republic, fantastic, great beer. It's true. Go ahead. Australia, we were there at the beginning of the year. You have actually the best seafood I've ever had. I am very jealous. I really am. Go ahead. Romania, fantastic. And Scotland, yes, not UK, you see, Scotland. Right at the back. Puerto Rico, fantastic. And a few more hands. We have Korea, beautiful country, very nice country. And Panama. Have I been? No, I haven't been. I'll have to come. And India, beautiful. So we have a lot of nationalities and a lot of cultures here. Would that be fair to say? Oh, we have missing someone here. Go ahead. Florida, that is a state of its own. You're quite right. Now, I'm very pleased. I really enjoy when there's a lot of nationalities come to the seminars rather than everyone being from the same sort of area. And the reason for it is because there's a lot of different cultures. Each nation, as you know, will have a slightly different culture. They see the world differently. They experience it differently. And what we're doing here is conversation hypnosis, right? Specifically, conversation hypnosis for hypnotherapy, right? Whilst the principles you'll be learning here will be equally applicable for sales or for parenting and all these other things, that is not our primary purpose here. You're all aware of that. Is that correct? Yeah? And it's great to have different cultures because when you meet someone who's not from where you are, they have different expectations. They have a different worldview, which means you've heard of the idea of culture clash, where your expectations suddenly aren't met and vice versa. It's great to have these things brought to face because it stops you making assumptions about people. And as a hypnotherapist, the last thing you can do is make any assumptions about that person. Does that kind of make sense? So I'm going to really encourage you guys as the week progresses to get to know everyone else, especially people who are from as far afield as possible from where you're from, so that you can get maybe the strangeness of the interaction, or the novelty, or the pleasure, or even the displeasure. Because, once again, not all clients that come and see you, that you work with, will be clients that'll be easy to work with. Does that make sense? So you may as well use this as your training room within which you learn the core skills, the interactions around which the hypnosis is built, right? Can all of you hold a conversation with another person? Yes? That is the only prerequisite I have here. If you couldn't understand what I just said, that's the other prerequisite. In other words, if you don't understand English, then it's very difficult for me to teach you. But if you understand what I'm saying right now, if you can hold a conversation with someone else and converse with them, even if it's at a relatively basic level, the key to doing conversation hypnosis and hypnotherapy is the ability to communicate an idea and make that idea hypnotic. Does that make sense? Now, yes, you will be learning a lot of sophisticated language tools and ways of using this and that and the other. But that is not the important part of what you will be learning. Please do not get blinded by the language. The language will come on its own. But if you need to choose between the language and the meaning or the idea that you're communicating, always choose the idea. Does that make sense to everyone? How many of you would like to truly master hypnosis? Only a few of you? There's a few hands missing. Let's try that again. How many of you really want to master hypnosis? Excellent. Would you like to know what the secret to mastering hypnosis is? Yes? Only 4 of you? All right. Everyone else goes on a break. You come forward and I'll whisper. But seriously, who would like to know the real secret to making this work? Right? It's a real simple idea. Have all of you heard the idea that practice makes perfect? Yes? That is not true. What practice makes is permanent. Correct practice makes perfect. You're going to have a lot of opportunities to practice things over the next 7 days. But one of the things people don't tell you on the path to mastery, on the path to correct practice, is that in order to know what is correct, you're going to have to make mistakes. You're going to have to fail a lot to go to the point to realize what you don't want to do anymore. The next 7 days are your opportunities to fail spectacularly. I hope you dive in and really take advantage of it, because there are no consequences in here. The consequences come when there's a paying client in front of you. Does that make sense to you guys? Now, I will make you a promise. I'm going to make you several. The first of which is, if you're willing to dive in and make plenty of mistakes, have no clue what you're doing, but be willing to do it anyway, just to see what happens, we'll make sure that by the end of this whole process, you'll know exactly what correct practice looks like, you'll know exactly what to do and when to do it. We'll make sure that when you have failed, you'll know exactly how to pull yourself out, because let's face it, when you face the real client, a real hypnotherapy client, stuff's going to happen that you don't expect. You're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters is not whether or not you made a mistake. What matters is, what do you do immediately after you've realized that you've made one? That is what separates the master from someone who's merely average or incompetent even. That's what we're here to find out, right? The question is, what would be a mistake? You don't even know what mistakes are yet, do you? So we're going to have to dive in and find out, aren't we? Now, I'd like to warn you about a couple of things. The first thing is, a lot of the material that we'll be covering here may seem at one point or another to be complex to you. And I want to assure you that nothing that I will ask of you will actually be complex. It will be sophisticated. And there's a difference between the two. The difference between complexity and sophistication is that complexity can be, well, it's difficult to understand, you can't quite get your head around it, and all the rest of it. When something is sophisticated, it means that at the smallest level, it is simple and easy to do. It's just there's a lot of things put together at the same time. It's kind of like driving a car. Anyone drive a car or ride a bike? Right? Only half of you ride a bike? Wow. Anyone walk? You may recall that when you first started to learn to ride a bike, drive a car, whatever you do, that there's a lot of little things you have to do, isn't there? You've got to check the mirrors. You've got to know where the steering wheel is and what it does. You've got the pedals to maneuver for going faster, going slower. If you learned in a manual car, you have to figure out how the gears work and how to move them around. Would that be correct? Do you remember your first time doing all these things? Would it be fair to say you were a little bit overloaded? It felt like an impossible task. It felt complex, right? And now, I'm not going to ask any hands to go up because I know one or two of you will sit there on the phone, maybe smoking a cigarette, driving, talking to your neighbor, and then looking around every now and again, just a casual glimpse on the road just to make sure there's no big trucks on the way, right? It's become easy. It's become automatic for you, hasn't it? It's become unconscious. Every single thing you'll be doing in here will be easy to do. Every single thing. The only reason it may feel difficult is because you're trying to do too much. You'll be adding stuff to it that wasn't necessarily asked for. And if you want to do it, by all means, knock yourself out. Have fun with it. But every single thing you'll be asked to do will be easy. And the only way it could get complex if you stay on task, shall we say, is if you're trying to do too much at one time. Do you know what the solution to that is? Stop it. Do one thing first, and then think about what the next thing will be. There's no need to do them all at once. That kind of elegance comes with time, with practice, with experience. I cannot give you that time. We're not going to be here for a month to do that. I can give you the experience, and I can give you enough practice of that so that you know how to do it on your own when you go home and keep going. Does that make sense to you guys? Now, in order to learn all these things and make them very natural to you, we're going to be basically using what we're teaching. We're going to use hypnosis to help you learn hypnosis more quickly, more easily, more efficiently, and so on. But that means there's going to be another thing that's going to happen. And this is a promise. At some point over the next 6 days, you're going to have no idea what's going on. No clue. Some of you may even start having difficulty grasping onto what's real and what's not real and where you are and who you are. I guarantee you it's going to happen. At some point, your mind is going to have no idea what's happening and what to do next. And that's okay. If you're willing to go through that, I will make you a promise. 6 days from now, you'll know exactly what to do. You'll know exactly when to do it and how to do it. And that is a complete promise. But you will go through that phase where you have no clue. Where as far as you're concerned, everything you're doing is probably wrong. Now, I invite you to consider this when you get to that point. Number one, I made the promise that it's going to happen, and I also made the promise that it's going to end. Number two, you have no idea what is expected of you. And for at least the next 4 days, you really will have no idea what's expected of you on purpose. So if you have no idea what's expected of you, how can you get it wrong? The only way you can be doing something wrong is if you think you should be achieving something specific when you're not. Rest assured, whatever you think you should be achieving will not be it. So, if you think you're doing it wrong, pat yourself on the back and keep going, because you're probably on the right path. Is that a fair deal that we can make? I want you to just really reflect on that for a moment, because it's going to happen. And I realize that the modern school system is not the most user-friendly experience, and that from time to time some personal issues will come up as a result of that. And that, well, let's face it, we've all lived life, and some things can come up from that from time to time. But I want you to realize something else. We're here to do a hypnotherapy training, right? You're training to learn the skills of a hypnotherapist. What you're not here to do is to get personal therapy. This is not a group therapy session. Does that make sense? You understand the distinction? Whilst you can absolutely expect some personal transformation to occur as a result of what's happening here, it's a side effect. I'm sorry, we can't help it. Don't look for specific changes. The only thing you're focusing on is at the end of the process. In fact, to be honest with you, the only thing to be focusing on is what happens next. That's really the only responsibility you have. If you know what you do next, when you go into an exercise, what's expected of you, when you're doing a particular thing, you just have no idea how to end it, but you know how to start it, that's all we require of you. Only one step, the next one. It's the only thing that's required of you. Anything you put on top of that, well, that's on you. And if you can't stop it, well, then you'll learn, shall we say, the consequences of trying to do too much too soon. The promise is at the end of the whole process, you will do everything and you'll do it well. But you have to go through that phase where you're willing to put things on pause. Now, it does mean there's a lot of responsibility, personal responsibility on you guys for getting the best out of this training, right? That means if something unpleasant happens to you, do you know who's going to pull you out of it? You. Right? It's your responsibility. Let's face it. How many hypnotherapists in the room again? Put your hands up. Would it be fair to say, for those of you with experience, that from time to time a client comes up with an issue that sparks something off in you, and for a moment, your own, if I can speak some French for a moment, shit comes up too, right? You have to learn to keep that together because otherwise you can't do this work. Does that make sense to you guys? So if something does arise with you, pull yourself back together. Find ways to trust your own unconscious mind, to put it back in the back of your mind, put it back in a safe place where it is right now, and carry on with your training in a good, positive attitude. Does that kind of make sense to you guys? Yes. Now, of course, we have assistants here. You have myself here as well as a resource, and we'll help you along the journey. But do not expect us to do hypnotherapy on you. What we will do if you are stuck in a place like that is we will help you, give you enough of a lifeline that you pull yourself out. We will not be pulling you out. Do you understand the difference? Yeah? Because it's your responsibility. And that's part of what comes as being an adult and doing learnings, right? Now, as part of being an adult learner, it also means that you get to learn in whatever way fits you, right? So if some of you prefer lying on the floor just to let it all soak in, I don't care, do it, right? Just make sure no one tramples on you. Just let people know that you're there, right? No silent missiles underneath the chairs or something. If you feel thirsty, go ahead, just stand up and grab yourself a drink. No need to put your hand up and say, please, miss, can I go to the loo? Right? Just go up, do whatever you need to do, come back. The only thing I will ask of you is please be respectful of other people's time in here. That means if you are going to get up, just get up quietly, maybe move off to the edge so you're not, blocking people's views. Don't start taking phone calls in the middle of a seminar, right? In fact, anyone here have a phone? A few people, I'm sure I do. Could you just double check that they're off at this point? Even if you've already turned them off and you know you've turned them off, it's worth double checking, isn't it? If for no other reason, then because I do have a habit of answering phones for you. And then you have to go to family therapy to fix your marriage again.
В далекие-далекие времена жадные дворяне наживались на неграмотном народе. Хорошо, что у них был знакомый в Шервуде. И сейчас, спустя века, узнать, как пополнять свои кошельки, а не чужие, помогает Sherwood.biz. Он может превратить тунеядца во фрилансера, любителя в настоящего профи, помочь безыдейному стать гением. Хочешь привлечь клиентов в свое дело, научиться программированию или анимации, а может выучить чужеземные языки? Получить знания, чтобы заработать, тебе поможет Sherwood.biz. Заходи, узнавай, учись.
И позвольте мне сказать вам кое-что еще. Нет стремления более естественного, чем стремление к знанию.